Aaron, we already dosed General Cure. Why are we doing dosing General Cure again?
What is up, everyone? This is Aaron with Aaron's Aquatics here. For today's video, like promised in the last video, I will be going over the new quarantine setup, the fish that are in there now in the system, and my plans for the next few weeks. My goal is to show you the entire quarantine process. Well, my entire quarantine process. So, without further chit-chat, let's get started. All right, guys, so here is the 30-gallon quarantine setup. Now, in other videos, I have gone over this tank, but there have been a couple changes made, and for those of you that are new, I will go ahead and explain everything in this setup. So again, this is a 30-gallon tank, a little bit of displacement because there is a giant Pyrex dish, a baking dish, that is filled with sand. Why it has sand? Because of these bros. Because of the longfin fairy wrasse that was kind enough to come out and talk, as well as the orange back fairy wrasse that, guys, usually you don't see it. I'm so happy that he decided to come out, but he definitely comes out for eating. You'll see that here in a little bit. So that is the purpose of this, for the fairy wrasses, to give them the ability to burrow into the sand. I think the longfin is the only one that has buried into the sand successfully, but man, such a beautiful fish. It's always excited looking for food. Now, wrasses aside, I do have a male Veles Angelfish. Absolutely beautiful. It's a Gynaecanthus angel, one of the few reef-safe angelfish that are known to not pick at coral. And wow, he's taken a few shots at the wrasses. I've had these guys in here for about a week. This is the first time I've seen any kind of aggression. I will go ahead and keep an eye on that. He's always patrolling his territory. I just fed them. You'll see also that in a little bit. But let's go ahead and go over the rest of the equipment just in case. As you might have noticed, I've got a couple sponges. These were there because they were sitting inside my display tank sump for months. And they're just here so that they can provide the more beneficial bacteria to the system. Okay, so we got that. Also, this one, this is the main one. It's hooked up to a one of my, you might be able to see it, I forgot the name of it, but it's just a basic air pump. It's very quiet, and that is providing a lot of the oxygenation inside the water, but most of the oxygen is coming from two of these Sun power heads, right? I got one there, and I have one right there. Now, these things, one of them is pointed right up to the surface. We're providing a ton of surface agitation, more than enough oxygen, and of course I got a lid here and just a light for the purpose of viewing and feeding and all that kind of stuff. Those two cost $8, all right? Those two, they're very, very cheap. You can find them on Amazon. I should have a link in the description below. I've got some basic PVC pipe here. This will help with reducing aggression. As you can see, the wrasse obviously can find shelter against angry Veles boy because, obviously he can't fit in here, but his is this giant 6-inch PVC pipe that he can use for whatever he wants. Moving on, we've got a heater here. This is a Phoenix, I think it's a 200-watt heater. Definitely overkill for this tank, but I love the controllability. You actually have the ability to control the temperature right here, this little single click button, and that means I can always see what the temperature is with that little LCD display. I'm definitely pampered because I've used it once. I can't use anything else. I just got to stick with that LCD display. I'm not going to mess with anything. All right, so I've also have a ammonia test badge, a secondary temperature gauge just to make sure that the LCD is accurate. But let's go ahead and go over the medications that I'm using with this tank. I'm gonna try to do all this at once, guys. 1, 2, 3, we're doing everything. All right, guys, so here is everything that I use in this tank. So we're gonna go ahead and talk about really the non-medication portion of it first. This is what I use to seed the tank right off the bat, okay? This is, I think this is Brightwell Aquatics. Yeah, Brightwell Aquatics. Microbacter 7 MV7. I love this stuff. It's great for seeding a tank, great for reducing nitrates, doing a lot of different things. As well as I'm trying out a new product, Aquavitro Seed. I'm not very familiar with it, but it seems to have been doing the job. We're just gonna go ahead and give it a test, and it's always nice to have some long-lived bacteria on hand, just in case. Moving on to the actual medication, In a little bit, you will see me feeding these fish. That will include the general cure and the focus. We'll be talking about those later. But these are my full line of copper and additional medications for alternative events. So the primary copper that I'm using for these guys right now is Copper Power, okay? This is a chelated copper. And in my opinion, and quite a few other reefers' opinions, this is probably the best chelated copper, only because it's the most consistent copper in terms of what's actually produced inside this bottle, right? So when you want to dose, what do you want to bring it to? You want to bring it to 1.75, you want to bring it to 2.0. There is nothing worse than trying to dose something and getting inaccurate readings based on your own measurements. I'm gonna go ahead and leave in the description below a little bit of details on how you can calculate your own copper used inside of a medicated tank, a hospital tank, because I don't want to get it wrong, and I will leave that to the experts. As a backup, I did purchase this a long time ago. I do not use it. This is Cupramine's product. It is also a chelated copper, if I remember correctly. Then you have Mardel's Copper Safe, which, actually, hold on, no. Cupramine, I think that's an ionic copper. Mardel's Copper Safe, that is a chelated copper. These are just two different copper products. It depends. Some fish actually have a little bit of a different reaction based on which copper you use. It's very important to know what kind of copper your fish need. In this particular cases, wrasses as well as Ginacanthus angels do better in a chelated copper. So in this case, Copper Power is my only choice, in my opinion. I also have on hand ProsiPro, which honestly, I don't need. I bought this a long time ago, but I like to have it on hand. General Cure does the exact same thing as ProsiPro, except it adds additional benefits to it through a few other active ingredients. You can go ahead and read those on your own, but I would definitely recommend General Cure over ProsiPro, especially for wrasses. I feel like wrasses take General Cure a little bit softer than ProsiPro. But you know what, having medication on hand is better than not having medication. So if I have a little bit extra, so be it. I also have Canaplex and Metroplex. I use this for a variety of things if needed, but for the sake of this video, we're not gonna talk about this because that's not what we use in a quarantine setup. So you've seen the setup, you've seen what medications I use. Before we move on to feeding the fish, man, you are so pretty, so pretty. Who's a pretty boy? Who's a pretty boy? Last up, and probably one of the most important recommendations that I can make to you guys, is how you test for copper, okay? To me, there's only one option, okay? You can use a tyration kit that requires you to drip a little bit into these little circular divots, and then you kind of guess what that color means. But when it comes to copper, you cannot go wrong. This stuff gets toxic to fish very quickly and can kill fish just as quickly. So my recommendation is the Hanna checker for copper. Okay, I think there might be two, one that measures it in ppm, one in another. I want to say Hanna makes a lot of these checkers. I could be wrong, but I will leave the product description or the product in the description below. To me, this is really the only way to test for copper, okay? It's very, very simple. All you do is you fill this little capsule with about 10 milliliters of water. There's a little line right here so you can figure that out. You then shake it. You add a little bit of the Hanna specific reagent, shake it, put it in here, press a button, Prestamundo, you have a copper reading, okay? This is the best thing that you can do besides getting, I think, lab grade equipment. I think this is about as good as it gets. Now, this does run you about 50 bucks. However, if you wait till sales, they always come on sale during like New Year's sale, Christmas sale, like all that kind of stuff. Bulk Reef Supply, all those guys, Amazon even probably, they put these things on sale, all right? So check them out then, or you can buy it now. It's always better to be safe than sorry, especially when it comes to the health of your fish. All right, guys, so my method to handle internal parasitic infection is to use a few different products. First being API's General Cure. You can go to any pet store, really. You should be able to pick this up. If you can't, you can always buy it online. To bind that medication to the food, I go ahead and use Seachem's Focus. It comes in a little bottle, usually a little box, but yeah, you can get that. Now, the food of choice that I use is frozen mysis shrimp. I don't even remember what brand this was, but you can use whatever you would like, what fits for your fish. This is my preferred choice. Now, there is a Reef to Reef post by a gentleman named Hot Rocks who put together the exact general cure to focus to mysis shrimp formula that you need to use. And so in this particular case, I conveniently have, I don't know if you can see it, is a half tablespoon, because my 3 fish do not eat nearly that much, and you really only want to refrigerate this for 3 to 5 days. This is my second batch that I've made since I started since last Saturday. So I'm gonna show you exactly what I do in this method to treat internal parasitic infections. Okay, so first and foremost, what you're gonna wanna do is get as much mysis shrimp or whatever you use that will fill up a half tablespoon, okay? So in my case, about 4 cubes does one of these once you go ahead and remove it. Now, you gotta keep in mind that the amount that I'm using is the strained amount. It is not the amount that it contains all the water. We're gonna get this water out, and that's where a little fine mesh strainer comes in handy. Do not tell my girlfriend I'm using this. She doesn't know, but I do clean it. So go ahead, I'm gonna go ahead and de-thaw this, and then we're gonna strain it, and then we're gonna come back and I'm gonna show you guys how to use the medication. All right, guys, the mysis is de-thawed. We're ready to go. First things first, we're gonna wanna go ahead and strain this. Did not think this through. Strainer's over here. By the way, ignore the dirty sink. I'm sure everybody has dirty sinks, don't judge me. Go ahead and just strain it. I try to strain it at the exact same spot just to try to keep everything clumped together. Makes all of this just a little bit easier. Damn it, got a few stragglers. I'll take care of them in a second. Once you have this batch, if you wanna remove water, you can. I don't really feel like it's necessary. Just take your spoon, scoop it out. All right, kind of tap it, give a little tappa-tappa, as Chef John would say. Okay, so as you can see, this is actually a little bit less than a tablespoon, so I will adjust my general cure and focus accordingly, but I'll leave the formulas for what you need to use in this mixture in the description below. Okay, so once you have your frozen mysis de-thawed, strained, you have your beer ready to go, of course, like always. Let's go ahead, just go ahead and take the mixture and dump it back inside of whatever container you like to mix it in. I'm just using a frag cup. After you've got that, go ahead and take your focus. The focus container comes with this little spoon, and that's the spoon that we're gonna be using to measure out both the focus and the general cure. Now, it's gonna be really hard to see, but there is a lot of powder on here that you may not want to include in your mixture. So go ahead and take it to the sink and just kind of like shake it around a little bit, and then use that for the remainder of this concoction. Now that you have your little spoon cleaned off, what you're gonna wanna do is use half of it. You wanna use half the spoon for both focus and general cure. I'm gonna show you what I'm using, and I'm gonna use a little bit less because like I said, I have a little bit less than half a teaspoon in here, so I'm just gonna try to keep this, let me see if I can focus at all on this. Okay, so there you go, you can see it, little white on white, perfect for a camera, of course. And then go ahead and just add that into your mixture. Then go ahead and grab one of your containers of the general cure and do the exact same thing. I'm good today. I have mightily steady hands. So, as you can see, if I could focus about half-ish of the spoon and go ahead and like, oh my fucking God. No. I'm gonna leave that in because I tell no lies. I'm gonna leave that in, I'm gonna clean that up like a man. Okay, so go ahead, add your general cure. We've added the focus, we've added a mess, that's great. Then take your mixing device of choice. In this case, I am using a metal chopstick, works really well, and just kind of get in there, you know? Oh God. If I could get this to focus, thank you. And just kind of mix it all in. It doesn't take a whole lot of time. If you want to add a little bit of tank water to help you out in this process, go for it. And just give it a good old Stir, stir. It doesn't really take a whole lot of time. And at the end, your mixture should look a little bit something like this. That's kind of what I try to go for. And then once you have this done, it is ready to go. Now, before I clean up that mess, I want to be clear about something I did mention a little bit earlier, but I want to just be extra clear. You can seal a container and put it inside your refrigerator for about 3 to 5 days, okay? You are running the risk of some external bacterial infection that gets inside the food, but I'm gonna leave that up to you. Not a lot of people wanna make a small batch of this or a large batch of this. It's gonna be up to you. Obviously, a sealed container is better than something like this. Honestly, with this, I'm just taking saran wrap and kind of wrapping the top of it. I do have a lid to this somewhere. So if you can do something like an airtight container, that would be ideal. Well, anyways, now that we've got this done, I'm gonna clean this up off camera because I'm not a slob except my sink. Okay, well, maybe I'm a little bit of a slob. And then we'll go upstairs and we will feed the quarantined fish. So what I'm using to go ahead and feed is a tiny little spoon. It's like an 1/8 teaspoon or a pinch or whatever you want. It really depends on what kind of fish you have. I'm gonna grab a small little spoonful and go ahead and add, actually I'll probably add a lot. I haven't eaten in a while. And just add it directly to the tank. And they should be going for, as you can see, the Veles is a dang beast. I love that guy. You can see in the back, the long-fin fairy wrasse is eating voraciously like everyone. There's the orange back. I'm so glad he came out. He is such a pretty fish. I love that fish. He's amazing. And he was the one that I was the most nervous about during quarantine, during the initial salinity, just because it was at 1.016 from the LFS. That's really, really low. And bringing fish up is much harder than bringing them down. But in any case, as you can see, they are all eating everything. They're not turned off by the general cure or the focus. If you do have fish that do not eat this, and it's because of the medication, like they normally eat mysis, but now they're not, go ahead and try adding a little bit of garlic. There's also some other proprietary blends that they sell. I don't remember the names off the top of my head. Please post in the comments below. But those will help attract the fish for those finicky eaters. Now, I am a super nerd, so I do have a whiteboard on hand. To me, it's a great way to write down specifics for what you're doing in the quarantine process. So you've seen the medication, you've seen the tank. I wanna show you exactly what I'm gonna be doing for the next 30 plus days, okay? So we're gonna start off with phase 1. We're gonna be doing a combination of general cure plus focus, okay? That started on the 6th of this month. It should end at about the 20th, okay? In tandem with the general focus, general cure and the focus, we are gonna be slowly raising up copper to 1.75, which is the full therapeutic level. What that should do is we're gonna start that on the 10th, okay? The 10th is technically when we reach 1.75. I'm gonna be getting up to this number by dosing 2 times a day for 3 days. So really, I'm starting on the 7th, but really what we wanna count is when we reach full therapeutic, which is the 10th. At that point, we are gonna be keeping these fish at 1.75 for 14 days. That leads us to the 24th of January. And that's kind of what this video is a little bit about, because some of these things are different than what you hear. Most people will say that if you wanna use copper, you have to do it for 30 days. And that's fine. For a lot of people, that works. For some of the pillars in the community when it comes to disease, parasitical infections, viruses, bacteria identification, and curing, they're starting to change that process, okay? And I'm trying it out for me. Don't do it for you, do your research first. Don't come blame me if something goes wrong. But what I'm trying to do is follow what these guys are doing. They are keeping fish at full therapeutic for 14 days, okay? This is based on the ick life cycle, right? It attaches to the fish, it does its thing, it falls off, cysts up, it turns into this little really hard thing, and then it explodes and turns into more ick little jerks, okay? Anyways, the 14 days is taking that life cycle into consideration, okay? So after 14 days, we then take the fish out of that copper tank and we add them to a second sterile quarantine tank. That is upstairs. It's not set up yet, so I'm not really gonna show it to you guys. There's no point, but I do plan on getting it set up within the next day or two so that I can add in my cycled media and give it a little bit of time to make sure that it's up to par with where I want it to be. At that point, we are going into phase 2. Phase 2 starts at the 24th when we move the fish from the copper tank to the sterile tank, okay? At that point, I'm gonna probably leave them for a day or two to let them get adjusted to the new tank, the new environment, the new water conditions. And then I'm gonna start dosing General Cure into the water column. And we're gonna do 2 doses, and that's across 4 days. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, Aaron, we already dosed General Cure. Why are we doing dosing General Cure again? The reason why we're doing that is because General Cure plus Focus with the food will help with internal parasites, okay? General Cure in the water column will help with external parasites, okay? So we're really trying to do like a 1-2 punch thing here and try to go after some of those issues, all right? At that point, we will still be leaving them in for 14 days. Now the start and end date is not in yet because just in case something happens, that date will have to be adjusted. That 4 days, that's baked into this, so technically it would be, it's not like 4 days and then 14 days. But that is the general process, guys. We are getting rid of internal parasites. We are getting rid of common issues that only copper can deal with, like ick. We are then moving to external parasites and then observation, right? Within that time, we should be able to catch most, if not all, issues that might get into the tank. Some of you might be saying to yourself, Aaron, this is extreme. Yeah, it is. It is extreme. But go back and look at my video history. This tank went fallow for 76 days. No fish, no nothing. And that's a big problem, right? No nitrates in the tank. Coral are doing bad. And then issues start happening. Okay, a tank cannot go without fish, in my opinion, unless you are doing some serious dosing and you're very familiar with that process and you don't want to cause any issues long-term with your system. That being said, this is the path that I'm going to be trying. I'm hoping it does well. Again, we have a lot of the information in the description below if you guys want to see specific calculations, specific user methods, and if you want to ask questions yourself on Reef to Reef, these guys are more than welcome to help you out. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this video helps you in your process in maintaining a clean, parasite, disease, everything free tank, okay? It's been a long journey for me. I'm really hoping to get some fish in this tank. As you saw in my last video, my goal for 2019 is to stock the hell out of this tank, and that's 1 quarantine batch at a time. So we will be going from quarantine to quarantine, hopefully fill out this tank as quickly as possible. Where'd he go? Oh, gee. Right there. People haven't seen you for ages. Hey, no, don't run from your fans. Hi, buddy. Hi. Hello. I'll see you guys later.